It's appalling to see those types of numbers begin with. But if we don't address the trust issue from every angle, as a community, as a unit, if they don't give you a seat at the table in the beginning, there will be no justice at the end of the day. You must have a seat at the table, folks. I am the only candidate in this race out of all the candidates in front of you that support civilian review and accountability panels. You have your day.
Well, that's really a pretty easy question. 2003 through 2006, I was the patrol chief in charge of Zone 5. And I can tell you, my friend, exactly what I was doing. I was out at Lincolnville with Mama Davis, and I was over off of Grunthal Street with Bernard Thomas, and I was creating a new SHADCO at EWC and a new SHADCO out at Baldwin because they did away with their police department. So I know exactly where I was during those time periods. Beyond 2006 up through 2008, I was in human resources doing everything I could to bring about better officers and civilian employees to work for this agency. So very much connected with that, and we did drop our crime by connecting with our community. Connect, protect, and serve.
Thank you for your question. 2004 through 2008, I was serving as the Public Information Officer, or the spokesman for the department, which, by the way, is the only Public Information Officer in the state of Florida, since you brought it up, to ever win Spokesman of the Year for 2 consecutive years. I just thought I could relate that. Thank you for your question.
Thanks, Lonnie McDonald. From 2004 to 2006, I was in organized crime, to answer your question. Narcotics, organized crime, career criminal things. 2007, I was appointed to sheriff's staff as a zone commander in Mandarin, from downtown to the beaches, the largest zone in the city. That's what I was doing. To answer your question specifically, what would you do? Like I said earlier, you would engage the community. That's how you get things done.
Thank you. A couple of housekeeping things. If you can take out your phone and tweet, Facebook, Instagram with the hashtag My Village Voice, My Village Voice Project. My Village Project, I'm sorry. So if you can do all of those things and let people know where you are, we will be very appreciative. So our next question comes from Teen Leaders of America.
I'm Jared Hamilton. I'm from Teen Leaders of America, and I go to Bandon High School. My question to you is, only one of you can win. If you lose, how will you help the new sheriff reduce youth violence?
The question was, if you lose, how will you help the new sheriff? Anybody? Reduce youth violence. And it's back to Mr. Cummings.
Well,
Dr. Cummings, I'm sorry.
I would strongly encourage him to adopt.
Please use the microphone.
Okay. I would strongly encourage him to adopt those 5 initiatives that I threw out. They're very important. Because the youth in the hardest hit areas of Duval County need to know they can grow up to be police officers and enforce the laws in the neighborhood as well. And you can't simply conduct outreach operations for a day or two and then revisit it a month later and think you're going to affect change and trust in that community. So I would work vigorously to be in that sheriff's ear, to have him adopt those initiatives so that that oversight can be there by the public, and also that aggressive recruitment of minorities can be in place to change the dynamics of those neighborhoods so that that trust gap can be closed.
I retired in 2013 after 35 years of experience with the agency. I have vast resources in our community, including people such as Mr. W.W. Gay, J.B. Coxwell, Tony Sleeman, business leaders in this community that have lots of money and lots of resources. My commitment to any of these men that may win, because I love Jacksonville, just as they do, is to utilize every resource that I have, every connection that I have, all of my experience, all of my abilities to help them have the safest city in America. I'm tired of Jacksonville being the murder capital of Florida. But my commitment, no matter who wins, I'm on board with them 100%.
I would embrace the new sheriff. I would extend my knowledge, my skills, my abilities, and I will continue to do what I'm doing now. I'm the vice chair of Operation Save Our Sons, which is an organization that has just taken off. I'm the executive board member of Project SOS, which works with the public school system as well as some private school systems. I'm constantly being requested as a guest speaker to young men, primarily young men, but young men and young women, to deposit into their lives, to give them values of how to win in life. So I would embrace the new sheriff. I will offer and extend my knowledge, my skills, and ability, and I will look forward to working with them.
I think a common denominator you find with all of us, we love the city. We love the city. We all, honorable men. And I would pledge to whoever it might be, take the experience that I've gained throughout my career, throughout my life, to help mentor kids, the things I've learned from talking to people throughout this process and that I've learned through my career. The mentoring programs are so effective that I can tell you about that help these young people that are investment. So I pledge to sit down with them and to be at their disposal however they want to use me in this community, so as not to interfere with them and to help them move forward with this and bring us all together. I give them my pledge for that.
Thank you, and I agree. Listen, I again was born and raised in Jacksonville. Win or lose, I'm staying in Jacksonville, and it's really incumbent upon all of us to ensure that the next sheriff and the next mayor, no matter who it is, are successful. And we're going to do everything we do. I'm going to do everything I can do to support that. And I'll do one more thing. We have done many of these forums, as these gentlemen will attest to, and I promise you that I will remind them of some of the things they said on the campaign trail. They're sitting in the seat, so we can make sure we get some of the things done that we're talking about getting done. So thank you.
We just want to remind you, if you're in the audience, if you have a question, send your question, tweet it to @SaveMyVillage, @SaveMyVillage, and then indicate if it's directed to a specific candidate or group. Our next question comes from the D.W. Perkins Bar Association.
Good evening. My name is Attorney Stephen A. Smith. I am the current president of the D.W. Perkins Bar Association. Is that a question for me?
Excuse me, I apologize.
Okay, all right.
I apologize.
Which is representative of the black lawyers and judges in Jacksonville. And I certainly appreciate your attention and your being present to hear the questions of our community. I'm born and raised in Jacksonville, of course, and I have a great love for this community. What I want to know of the candidates on behalf of the Perkins Bar is what do you, by your estimation, believe is the most pressing issue for the next sheriff? How would you resolve it? And what would its impact be on the African American community?
The most pressing issue is building the community's trust. We have totally lost the community's trust. How do we rebuild it? There's several areas. One is, again, the training, the way we train our officers to interact with the community. That also equates to the face of the administration and the police department. it has to look like the community. Building the morale of our officers within the agency. I'm telling you, the morale is lower than it has ever been, and that rolls over or spills over into the community. What you get with me is the sheriff will be out on the front, not in the office, but looking in the eyes of the community.
It starts with leadership. It starts with leadership. I want to reintroduce the police department back to the community. How do you do that? By engaging the community. Officers out of the cars, actually engaging the community, not for enforcement reasons whatsoever. I want to be able to walk the community and knock on your door and find out how I can better serve you as your sheriff. I want to introduce to you the officers that rise your beat 3 o'clock in the morning. Tell me why. Because if you have an issue at 3 o'clock in the morning with a suspicious vehicle or a suspicious person, instead of calling downtown, if you have a relationship with that officer, you can directly call that officer or text that officer and say, when you get them over, there's a suspicious car in my area. Please check it out. You won't have to wait an hour. You may not be there right away, but you won't have to wait an hour or so. So it's all about leadership.
What's present issue that I face? Well, you hear, violent crime gets all the attention, but it all comes down to community trust. If the community doesn't trust the sheriff's office, then we don't have a plan. Nothing's going to work. And you have to be able to sit down and discuss those issues. And I've said it over and over again. It all starts at the top, and it starts with the training from the sheriff, the administrative staff. From the first day, I met with Shavara over at one of these forums. She teaches a class in human relations that's very effective. So you have to start with the training, and that message sits down throughout the rank and file so they know how to address the community and build that community trust. So it's a slow process, but it goes with training, setting down, listening to the issue. There's a two-way flow on the issues, but you have to be able to hear them. Thank you.
There are several issues that overlap that you're going to address on day one, and everything we do, we're going to work to build trust in the community. But I can tell you clearly, for me, the number one issue in our community is violent crime. So we have a violence problem driven by the drug trade here that clearly is our number one issue. We tear the city apart if we don't get ahead of it once and for all. Let me tell you, back in 2011, we had murder totals as low as they've been since 1970. And there was an enforcement element to that. We did an enforcement operation there, and we're focused on enforcement efforts to get that done. However, the Jacksonville Journey was also properly funded. And when the Jacksonville Journey was funded, you had those prevention and intervention programs all working together to drive that murder number down again to as low as it's been since 1970. That's a significant number. That's where we have to be again. The issue for us is clearly violent crime, and we're going to work hard from day one to get ahead of that issue once and for all.
And I absolutely agree, violent crime is the issue. But we have to have a serious conversation about how we deal with violent crime, how we combat violent crime. African American males are incarcerated 3-to-1 in Duval County, 8-to-1 nationwide. The unemployment rate amongst young African American males is 40% nationwide. 40%. These are real numbers, folks, that impact African American households. And if we don't have the conversations that address these issues once and for all, then we're just spinning our wheels here, folks. Increasing that size of that community affairs division matters. Those outreach operations, we don't have to throw our guns and show our badges. We just need to go out there and shake hands and actually ask the neighborhood, what do you need for a change? The sheriff understands the strategies. You understand your neighborhood better than I would ever understand your neighborhood. We come together, we work together, and we can make a difference. And that's what I want to do as your next sheriff.
I'm going to jump in real quick with the question. We apologize for getting so many diversity questions, but obviously you can see the crowd and you can understand why we're asking all these diversity questions. But My question is, in terms of your commitment to diversity within the actual police department itself. You know, we were talking a lot about training and things like that. Based on our brief survey, we do know that we have a gang problem in Jacksonville, but currently there's only one gang detective that's African American on the force. We also know that there are no African American SWAT officers on the force, according to our survey. So I guess our question is for you, what is your commitment to making sure the actual officers are diverse?
Absolutely, thank you for that question. I believe there may be one SWAT officer that's African American. I'll have to check on that to see. But even if that's so, why? The compelling question is why? Do they not meet the requirements as their colleagues? Do they not at least is equal to everything or even better? That will change under my administration. You can't have a premier agency like the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, or premier like it used to be, and have these disparities in numbers when it comes to African American, Hispanics, Asians, whomever. When I was a recruiter, my main assignment was to go and find the underutilized classes of people. They told me to find 5. I found 25. They told me that there was no one out there that qualified. But I found 25. And as your sheriff, we will balance those numbers. Thank you. Y'all know what
That question goes away from the diversity in hiring, because you can't force someone to go to the SWAT team if they don't want to go to the SWAT team. I don't care who they are. I mean, SWAT commander is a very dedicated position. And I've seen the numbers fluctuate back and forth. And there's a lot of commitment. And if they don't want to do it, you certainly don't want to force them to make that commitment. But it's open to everyone. From day one, everybody's got an equal opportunity. No matter what the position is, they can, you know, if the agency reflects the community, then inside the agency should reflect it as well. But some people, I know, in the career paths, different people choose different things. You can't force someone to do that, if that makes sense to you. So, but it's open up to everyone.
So in 23 years with JSO, again, I've worked at every supervisory level in the agency, and I can tell you from the perspective at each one of those levels, diversity is hugely important at every level of the organization, to include the line level. And I can tell you the snapshot in time of what you're looking at, I don't know what the numbers are today, but I can tell you we've had many African American SWAT team members. We've had other gang detectives over the course of 7, 8, 9 years now that unit's been up and running that have been African American. So it's not an effort that they put forth all the time to make sure that the numbers are right, because again, as Lonnie mentioned, the requirements are out there, we put it out, we don't force anybody to do that, but we do, and we've had, again, to be fair, we've had, again, many African Americans represented in those units in years past.
I'll say this. I stand before you today as a direct example of what's wrong with Jacksonville Sheriff's Office as a whole. You heard of it, and you may describe it as nepotism, favoritism, cronyism. I call it the good old boy system. Females may call it the glass ceiling. But it's real. It's real. How do you combat that? Once again, that public to the table. Make sure your hierarchy resembles the public. And ensure that you aggressively seek out minority candidates for hire. Aggressively. That's important, because I've read this line in the annual budget report over and over again. They said they could not find enough qualified African American and Hispanic males to join the sheriff's office. Candidates on the sheriff's office. I find that quite baffling, because the requirement at the time was a high school diploma.
Actually, that question is exactly why I'm running for your sheriff. why I'm running to be your sheriff. Look, I came up through those ranks. I know how the system works. You may even hear that from some of the other candidates. It's not just the qualifications, it's who they say, who they get with the sergeants and lieutenants to determine who is going to be led into those units. I'm telling you. As a director and as a chief in the past, I've made sure that we had diversity within our various sections. Even though I had some that looked at me and said, you're just playing politics. I'm not playing politics. I'm doing what's right, what represents this community. I know how the system works. I know what changes need to be made. I'm getting excited.
All right, if you're getting excited too. If you are getting excited too, you have to, okay, take out your telephone and get on Twitter, your cell phone. Get on Twitter, get on Facebook and Instagram, and remember, use the hashtag MyVillageProject. Our next question is coming from the National Council of Negro Women.
Hello, everyone. My name is Prashonda Scott. I'm the president of the National Council of Negro Women. And my question is, quite often through events such as this, when folks are running for office, that's when everyone appears and, everyone wants to show up and put their hat in the ring. I'm off of Moncrief and Lindsay Road. That's where our headquarters and our community center is, the 32209 zip code. My question is, prior to your decision to run for office, how often have you visited my corridor where I have little girls walking around no shoes on, parents don't know where parents are. I've fed kids that don't know where their parents are, and the one thing I see is missing is you. So my question is, where have you been prior to that, and when was the last time you were in my neighborhood?
I've actually been through that area, worked through the entire city. I started my career in downtown Jacksonville. I've worked in that area, in various assignments, whether it be organized crime or whatever. For the past 2 years, I've been in Afghanistan, so I haven't been able to go through that neighborhood. I think I got a pass on that one.
I was not in Afghanistan with Lonnie. Hey, listen, I have spent in my career, as I mentioned earlier, I started in '91 as a line level patrol officer and worked in the northwest part of the city, and spent 23 years of my career fighting crime in Jacksonville. And I've spent a significant amount of that 23 years in units that really fight crime at the highest levels in Jacksonville. So I've been to your neighborhoods, worked in that neighborhood, again, on official capacity. As I rose to the ranks, chief and director, those type of things, I've been with Mad Dads on walks in that area. I've been with Sheriff Rutherford as he's walked in those neighborhoods. So I've been there, and I've been there and seen the neighborhood, seen the shape that the neighborhood is in. I've worked with Denise Lee on the Blight Committee that she's got working now. But I understand. I understand the issue. Thank you for the question, but thank you.
I'm not sure how many people are going to take this comment, but I had a young man approach me the other night and I made a comment, and it's very important for me to make it again. I grew up in Cleveland Arms, Washington Heights, and I understand the neglect that goes on in the northwest part of Jacksonville very well. I saved my pennies up to the tune of $130,000. to enter this race. Because the sense of urgency is now. All right, if anything in return, I want to ask for an opportunity to serve you as sheriff, to bring those accountability boards, to bring that change that Northwest Quadrant so deserves to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and to the city of Jacksonville. That's extremely important to remember. Sacrifice is important to remember. And if there's any city officials out here, I hope you're listening carefully, because Northwest Quadrant of Jacksonville can now no longer be neglected. And I want to be your next sheriff.
Anybody know where Old Kings and Soutelle is? Well, that's where I grew up. And I patrolled Graham Park, so don't make me go GP on you. And I was the zone commander out in Zone 5, and as a matter of fact, I was just over at Devonshire and Soutelle today. Let me tell you what is very concerning to all of us. And you're going to say, well, what's the sheriff got to do with this? There was a report that was recently done by the University of North Florida, 32206, 32209 zip codes. 95% of those children are on reduced and free lunch and breakfast. And that's a good thing, because if they didn't get that, they wouldn't eat at all. What's happening in the evening and what's happening on the weekends. And there's a correlation, a direct correlation with poverty and lack of infrastructure and business and education and crime.
To answer your question, I grew up at, some of you may know this address, 4229 Mount Creek Road, which is Washington Heights, property number 142. I didn't just show up with a bunch of fish.
That's right.
I didn't just show up telling you I love you and give you a fish sandwich. The last time I was in the area was the day before yesterday. Time before that was December. Time before that was November. I'm there. They recognize me, they understand me, they respect me. And as your sheriff, I will continue to be there, because I understand that the plight starts at the bottom. If we raise the bottom, we'll all get to the top.
Our final question in this particular segment of the evening comes from the NAACP.
Good evening. My name is Isaiah Rumlin. I have the pleasure of serving as the president of the Jacksonville branch NAACP, and also the owner of the Rumlin Insurance Agency over the last 38 years. Yeah, there you go. The question is, in the state of Florida, nearly 25% of African-American population is disenfranchised or ineligible to vote due to past felon convictions. What are your thoughts on automatic rights restoration as it relates to voting? And as another question, in light of what we see all over this country, including Jacksonville, where there have been murders at the hands of police officers that have never been charged, what are your position on body cameras? And if your position is favorable, how would you enforce and make sure that officers are wearing those body cameras at all times?
So quickly on this issue, again, back to prevention, intervention, and enforcement. When you talk about intervention, I think having that individual who has served his time come back to our community and try to make him a productive part of society, that can be part of it. So I'm open to having the discussion and talking about that. It's not really an issue that we can control, but again, making sure that they get a fair chance when they get back from prison is something I absolutely support. As far as body cameras goes, I am not opposed to body cameras. I think we need to have a conversation with the community about what you get with the body camera, how much is that body camera, and how much is it going to cost our community to do that. What are you going to see with the body camera? What kind of instance are we going to capture on a body camera that are not police use of force, that are now public record for your neighbors to see and for the news to see and that type of thing? So again, a conversation with the community about all of the issues surrounding body cameras is something we should have. But again, I'm not opposed to body cameras.
I'm not sure if 1 minute is enough to answer this question, but I'll start by saying, my mother was a convicted felon. She died in 2001. Well, she was arrested one time in her life when she was pregnant for resisting arrest against the police officers. She was arrested for having labor pains. She had to settle for substandard jobs all of her life because of that felony that followed her on her record. I am for, very much in favor of having those records sealed. Second, the body cam issue. Be careful what you wish for, folks. If you're gonna ask for all officers to wear body cams, ensure that that video footage is safeguarded. Sent to a third-party service so that the sheriff's office, until you can trust us again, that footage, you have some reasonable guarantees that footage would not be tampered with. I'm out of time, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, Mr. Rumwell, why didn't you tell them that you're located there at 45th and New Kings Road?
I have a torn ligament in my shoulder right now from that same incident.
But who was there?